Night of the Living Dead. Um, when did I first heard of Night of the Living Dead? I can't say. I could tell you when I first heard of Dawn, when I first heard of Day, and all the rest of the films in the Romero like Dead, saga. And most films in general, I could usually pinpoint when I first heard of them, or give you some clue. I have no clue when I first heard of Night of the Living Dead. It's like something like it's always been part of my life. Like in terms of being aware of its existence, like you just know, like when did you first? What's your first memory of a certain person in your life? Like a family member, a loved one, a close friend, or when's the first time you had like a certain food that you always ate? Growing up. When was the first time? And I'm sure there's people who can remember. But I don't know if there's anybody who can remember. I mean, other than people who have like super exceptionally like brains where they could just remember everything down to the detail. It's like it's always been part of your life. You have a hard point pinpointing when you remember a particular thing because it's always been part of your life. And I do not remember when I first heard Night of the Living Dead. Like I've always heard about it ever since I can remember anything, or at least recall remembering anything. Yeah, like I remember when I don't know, I don't know. Like I don't know, I don't know. But I'll say when the first time I did watch Night of the Living Dead. The first time I watched Night of the Living Dead was I was 10 years old. No. I think I just turned 11. I think, and I had an opportunity, possible opportunity to watch it before when I was like 8 or just about to turn 8. And I remember it was Halloween night. And I really, really, really wanted to watch it. But my mom, we only had one TV. My mom was and still is a big fan of The Twilight Zone. And it was a Twilight Zone marathon on Channel 11, WPIX. My mom wanted to watch that, and I couldn't watch Night of the Living Dead. I think Night of the Living Dead was on Channel 9, WOR. I think that was the name of the station. But yeah, it was on there, but they were both at the same time. My mom was the Twilight Zone marathon. And I remember one of the episodes, the Twilight Zone marathon was the one with the mask. The family wears the mask, and then the mask become their faces permanently because the family members were such assholes. I didn't appreciate the episode when it first came on, but I was like really too young to understand it. But anyway, so going back to when I actually did watch Night of the Living Dead, I didn't watch it when it was first on. Like when it aired, like I recorded it because it came on at a late Friday night, and it was when Channel 7 after Nightline, at least where I was in New York, would show movies usually after Nightline, and it had like a specific name, but I can't remember what it was. But Night of the Living Dead like aired during this particular time slot, and but I was too young to stay up, so I had to go ahead and record it. And so I think I saw it that Saturday morning, but my memories like tell me like it was later in the day. So it could have been, or just I think I watched it that Saturday, or at least definitely that weekend. I was by myself. I don't know why I didn't watch with my brothers. I think I may have gotten super early, that it may have been like dawn and looked like night. I can't remember, but I do remember I was by myself and I was watching Night of the Living Dead. And I was super excited, like finally I get a chance to watch this legendary film. And I remember when I started playing it, I wasn't exactly impressed. Nothing really stood out. Like I really don't remember my experience. Like I remember, but I don't remember watching Night of the Living Dead because it just didn't do anything for me for the most part. I thought, and this may sound borderline blasphemous to some. But remember, I was 11, okay? I just turned 11, or I might have been possibly 10 at this point. I thought it was boring. I thought it was boring a lot. I thought it was dull and it's boring. In fact, I thought it was so boring that I fast forward after a certain point. I don't remember when I fast forward. It wasn't at the beginning. I watched it for a while, but at a certain point, I fast forward because I said, this film is boring. I felt so let down, so disappointed. I had done that with a film earlier that year, fast forwarded a film. though I did appreciate and I liked the film when it was over. Well, at least I don't know. Did I fast forward? I don't know. Like when I watched Alien, I watched Alien for the first time that year, and that again another film that I had a lot of like hype for, and it took me years to see it. And then when I finally did see Alien, I'm like, this is boring. Like, I think I did fast forward, like the first half of it, some of it, because I just thought it was. But I didn't think it was fully boring. But I thought in spots, like you know, the stuff with Kang and the facehugger and all that. But I thought Alien, like up until the chestburster scene, I thought it was boring. But I did like Alien though. Like, and in fact, like Alien scared me in a certain way. But that's a story for another day. So yeah, but unlike Alien, I didn't really care for Night of the Living Dead that much. It's like I didn't hate it, but I just thought like, and I fast forward a good part of it, and like I did see the ending, and I'm like, okay, what is this? I knew he had died. I knew Ben had died in the end of the film, and but I didn't know how exactly he died. So I didn't get that shock like most people did the first time they watched Night of the Living Dead. I knew it years before, so when it told me he had died, but it didn't tell me in the manner. And so yeah, I watched it, and you know, I did watch it again in full, and even though I knew it was coming, like I wasn't shocked, but I was saddened. Even though I thought the film was boring, didn't really care for it too much, and this and that, I still, you know, liked the character of Ben, and just the idea of like the hero making it to the end and him just getting unceremoniously, unjustly shot. You know, that had an impact on me and all that. So I did like, I can't say like the ending is the right term, but I was moved by the ending. It stuck with me, but everything else about the film, like, again, I didn't hate it. I just didn't like it that much, and didn't really think much about Night of the Living Dead after I saw it for the first time. The next year, I had a chance to see Night of the Living Dead again. I think it was on, I think it was the same thing. I think it was like late at night on Channel 7. Or it could have been Channel 13. I can't remember. And I looked at it again. And this time it was with my brothers. And I watched it in full. And I didn't fast forward. And I had a more favorable opinion for it the second time around. I still wasn't fully into it. It is, you know, but that's okay. This film is actually solid. It's actually a good movie. I still wasn't fully like, you know, thinking it's a masterpiece or it's a great movie. Like in the way that when I saw Dave, when I saw Dawn, I was like instantly like hooked. Like this is some of the greatest stuff man's ever created. It took a while for me to appreciate Night of the Living Dead, and one of the things that helped me appreciate Night of the Living Dead in full was Night of the Living Dead, the remake. The 1990 film that starred Tony Todd. And I'd seen it at theaters. I actually talked about my experience seeing it at theaters with my brother, with my father, in a video that I'd done earlier, some months back. And you could, you know, see the video for my full experience, we're recounting my full experience on that. But yeah, I really liked it a lot. I loved it. Night of the Living Dead, the remake. I thought it was fantastic, awesome. It's instantly I was hooked with that film. So because of how much I loved that movie, I said I'm gonna give Night of the Living Dead another shot, you know, next time it comes on. And again, it wasn't that long because, you know, it was a film that aired a lot on television. It was a film that was at one point on VHS because the film was and still continues to be in public domain, like in the later 80s, the earlier 90s and beyond. Like there was just a flood of copies of Night of the Living Dead. If you went anywhere that sold videos, you were guaranteed to not just see one copy of Night of the Living Dead available. You might see several copies from different distributors and different versions, like colorized version of Night of the Living Dead, or Night of the Living Dead with a commentary, or Night of the Living Dead parody, or Night of the Living Dead this or that. It's just like everybody seemed like every video distributor had their own version of Night of the Living Dead, all these multiple covers and this and that, and you know, this one is a better print, and it was just crazy. Like Night of the Living Dead was just so easy to get and so easy to watch. I mean, it's great. That helped its popularity. But there was a lot of people who exploited that unfortunate thing that happened with the copyright falling into public domain because of an error with where the copyright was placed on the title of Night of the Living Dead, on the print of the film. It's unfortunate how much money Romero and Image 10, the men who created, invested in Night of the Living Dead, like lost, the amount of money, and just claim, like in terms of legal claim to the film because of just some stupid shit that happened. That was through no fault of their own, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, so Night of the Dead came on again. It was on Cinemax the following year after I saw Night of the Living Dead remake, and Cinemax was doing this this month of films, like I think it was like old school horror movies or particular like style of horror movies. Like I can't remember what the theme was, but one of the films they were showing in this block of films they were showing for that month was Carnival of Souls, which is, like some people said, in terms of aesthetically, is the precursor to Night of the Living Dead, because you can see a good deal of like visual stuff. Like they weren't zombies in Carnival of Souls. I can't remember exactly what they were. They weren't zombies, they weren't ghouls, but you could look at the two, like, and I'm not saying Romero took anything from this film. I don't know if he even saw it at that point when he made Night of the Living Dead, but they're definitely like striking parallels in terms of like, the way how both films are shot, the way how both films, their quote-unquote monsters look, and stuff like that. So Night of the Living Dead was one of the films that was showing in this block of films that Max was showing. And I remember, I think it was cleaning the living room at the time too. I think it was in the afternoon I was watching it, and this was like the viewing that finally clicked with me. That finally I was like, okay, I get it. I totally get it. I totally get why this film is a masterpiece, and I feel this film is a masterpiece too. I don't know what it was about. Maybe because I was a little bit older at this point. I mean, I was of the very mature age of 12 at this point. But yeah, it just fully clicked with Night of the Living Dead. Like, I love this movie. Now, at that point, I still loved the remake more. Like, it wasn't even no question back then. I thought the remake was superior. But I finally loved Night of the Living Dead. And over the years, like, I got a chance to watch Night of the Living Dead again, like, a few years later. It could have been sooner, I don't know. But basically, at Air Child 13. And this time we made sure to record it, so we can have our own copy of Night of the Living Dead. And I just loved it, and loved it more and more and more. And I remember just watching that, like, constantly, that version that we recorded. Like, I full-blown, like, love that movie. And then by the time, the 1990s ended, things had switched in terms of, like, which version I thought was superior. Like, I still loved the 1990 film, still think it's a masterful film, but there's no question to me, by the time the 90s ended and now, like, Romero's original is the best. Like, it's just, it's a masterpiece. I don't think I need to really explain, like, why Night of the Living Dead is great and why it's the better movie. You can say in certain regards that the remake is better, like in terms of like the character Barbara, though I think Barbara is a great character in the original film as well. One could definitely argue that the makeup in the remake is better, but at the same time, it's like the zombies were supposed to have a particular look in the original one, so I think it's more of a preference which makeup is better than to say, like, objectively which was the better makeup. It depends what look you're going for. But I do really like the fact that 1990 remake, though, with the makeup. I think that maybe the very first zombie film where the eyes of the zombies is like totally dilated. Is something that would happen if someone was dead and come back to life. I remember first seeing that in 1990, like the pupil effect, like with the eyes being fully dilated. Like, whoa, that's something different. And we've seen a whole bunch of films, TV, anything zombie related, copying and that. So that's something. Overall, Night of the Living Dead 1968 is the best Night of the Living Dead film of them all. And pretty much said, it goes without saying why Night of the Living Dead is awesome. But I'm going to go ahead and say a few things of why I specifically believe that it's awesome. One reason why Night of the Living Dead is awesome is, of course, the direction by George A. Romero. There just wasn't anything like Night of the Living Dead before it, in terms of like the full package. Yes, aesthetically, I mentioned that shares something in common with Carnival of Souls, but the full package, it was like, in ways, it was almost like a documentary. In the way how it's shot, like it has that documentary feel. And there's no doubt that some of that comes from Romero's background in filming commercials and filming television material. You can definitely just see it in there. Also, like the times, like just the newsreels, and it's super clear that Romero's background in television had a huge influence in the presentation of Night of the Living Dead. The almost documentary like feel of the film just lends it an authenticity and a realism that you rarely get in horror films, particularly horror films at that point. I mean, seeing stuff like found footage now, like it's a dime a dozen, like in terms of quote unquote real feeling, but back then that just was something that just wasn't done. That's definitely pioneering stuff that Romero had done in regards to how he shot Night of the Living Dead. And not just in his presentation, but just in terms of not just in terms of like how it was shot, but also in the way how it was edited, in the way how it's just the feel of the film, the vibe that emanates. Night of the Living Dead feels real, and that definitely lends to it feeling being scary. I mean, I personally don't feel that it's scary because horror films don't scare me, but I do know that Night of the Living Dead is still considered to be one of the scariest films ever made. And the whole documentary like feel of it is definitely one of the reasons why it feels so terrifying, so urgent. The genius of Night of the Living Dead, like just having it set in, well, primarily set in one settings, like that's very challenging to make a story set in one setting and have it be captivating and not have it be stale like that. Like I went ahead and recently wrote a full-length feature that takes place inside an apartment, or virtually inside an apartment the entire time, and it was maybe the most difficult script I've wrote in my life. How do you do that? How do you keep things exciting? How do you keep things fresh and suspenseful when the space is limited? There's only so much that you can do. But Romero found a way to do that, and he did it, massively well. And also the genius of Night of the Living Dead is like it being so simple but so smart, so strong, and like the monsters, like these are basically just people. They are literally people, just people brought back. But Romero just goes ahead and shoots them in such a way, and directs them in such a way that they are quite terrifying, quite intimidating. These people who basically just have who have the appearance of having like pale skin and some dark circles on their eyes, and yet these things are just things you would never ever want to come across in the dark nor the light, and recreated a subgenre of films. The zombies definitely existed well before Romero ever had the chance to use them. And the first film, they're not even called zombies. It's well known. They were called ghouls. Romero, at first referred to them as ghouls. In fact, the original title, for those who don't know, was Night of the Flesh Eaters. These were not zombies. These not in the typical sense. It seemed like it was one of those situations where the public decided to we know what you created, but we're gonna go ahead and label what this thing is. And zombies is what they became, like the new version of zombies. And just the Romero didn't just create, or redefine like these creatures, redefine how you shoot a horror film, redefine how you shoot an independent film. This is a truly independent film. Like, this wasn't a situation where, it's released by an independent, like, I guess, wing of a major corporation, a major film studio. Like, yeah, there's this subset that we deem, that we say it's independent, but in reality, it had like major funding by a big time corporation or some kind of major investors, or just other ways how people say something's indie, but it's not truly indie. But no, this is truly indie. These guys, Image 10, they went ahead and they got whatever money they could and however way they could raise it, and they decided, without any Hollywood studio, without any like big time investors, we're going to make this film and we're going to go ahead and make it our way, and then after this we're going to have to go out there and search for a distributor. This is truly independent grassroots stuff. Night of the Living Dead. Yeah, it redefined how independent stuff was done. It redefined a whole lot of things. It turned the chapter in horror. Like, there was horror pre Night of the Living Dead, and then there's horror post Night of the Living Dead. This is a truly, truly monumental film. This film helped redefine how a certain character or a certain work of folklore was seen largely by the world, and then created this whole massive industry. Like, everything zombies that's come out since Night of the Living Dead owes a huge debt to Night of the Living Dead and those who made it, and in particular George Romero. Like, everything you think zombies, like Plants vs. Zombies, The Walking Dead, 28 Days Later, Return of the Living Dead, and just anything, Resident Evil, anything that has zombies, or at least this version of zombies that we know, owes a huge debt thanks to Night of the Living Dead. One thing I do appreciate about George Romero, in terms of debt, is that he realizes how much Night of the Living Dead owes debt to other stuff. Like, he has always said, like, Night of the Living Dead ripped off, his words, I believe, from Richard Matheson's I Am Legend. So, Romero, like, I just liked how humble he was about the whole thing. Most people would have tried to take all the credit, but no, Romero, whenever he could, as much as he could, he went ahead and, like, yeah, I did this, but I also had a lot of help from Image 10. I also had a lot of help from this person, that person, Richard Matheson. Like, this wasn't all me, this was like so many people. And I liked how, like, just throughout his career, like, he just, I don't know, there's a humbleness about him that is, I don't want to say it's rarely seen, but isn't seen nowhere near enough, particularly in fields like Hollywood, where it's all being big and bold in the most, like, egotistical ways. Like, you don't make anything your own. Filmmaking is a collaboration. It's a process that involves so many hands, and this idea of, like, oh, this one person is responsible for it all and only them, or primarily them. Like, no, like, you could say one person has made a contribution that's more significant than everybody else, but everyone, plays a part. Everybody, like, you can't make none of this on your own. Everybody has a part to play. So many hands, so many people, so many hours, so many eyes. I don't know. It's like, we're all in this together. We all make this together, and we all watch this together. And Romero realized that, it's not just him, like, it's everyone. And, it was just a great thing to see and hear. The characters and actors, another thing that I adore about Night of the Living Dead. The actor who has had, the greatest effect on me from this film, the character that's had the greatest effect on me, is Dwayne Jones as Ben. And he is just, he's just magnificent, his character. Like, just like, if you want to be somebody in a zombie apocalypse, or somebody in basically any situation, you want to be Ben. Ben is smart, Ben is strong, Ben is capable in all the ways that you want to be capable in. If there's one area, if there's one flaw with Ben, it's like because he maybe just a bit too stubborn, a little bit. Um, but as somebody who's had stubborn moments himself, I can relate to that. But overall, like he's a man. Ben is fantastic, and Dwayne Jones is perfect in that role. I remember seeing Night of the Living Dead at a retrospective screening. This was like a few months after Romero had passed, and I saw it. It was in Manhattan. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Village East Theater. Actually, I'm not sure about the name of the theater, but I saw it there, and some of the surviving members of Image 10 was there. The actor who played Johnny, I think it's Russell Striner, I think, was there, and I believe John Russo was there, and yeah, there was a Q&A that's at the screening, and it was a really fun time, like one of the best times I had in a theater ever, and we had sort of with a packed crowd. I had a bit of a fear watching the film, because it was mostly made up of a really young audience. Like, will they really get into this? Will they really enjoy it? Stuff like that. And they did. Like, they really just ate the film up, and they particularly enjoyed Dwayne Jones' performance as Ben. Like, they really loved him. Like, he really captivated the audience. Like, from the first moment he's introduced all the way to the end of the film. And yeah, like Dwayne Jones, like I said, he was the man, and he deserved so much better than what he got, and there's quite obvious reasons why he didn't get the career why he deserved. At least some of the reasons are quite obvious. Yeah, this is I don't know, he's just so strong in that performance, but he's also like very dignified and regal, particularly when such a role like that for a black man was extremely rare in cinemas. Like it was extremely rare to see black men be a lead in anything back then, and usually the roles would be stereotypical, or I don't know, there'd just be something that would just be like you would just shake your head at. But no, he was like I said, I wish I could come up with some better words, but he was awesome. He was beyond magnificent. A role that anyone could be proud of. And he definitely was a pioneer in regards of like respectful, dignified, and just magnificent on-screen representation of black people. Dwayne Jones. Judith O'Dea gives an unforgettable performance as Barbara. I know a lot of people, and I do mean a lot of people, have given shit over the character Barbara, has like just criticized this character to no end, and I continue to hear it, and I get that. It's like, I don't know, I saw a video recently, someone talking about Night of the Living Dead, and like, they were talking about comparing the original with the remake, and it's like one of the differences between the original and remake is that Barbara does stuff in the remake, and Barbara in the original does nothing, like literally nothing. I'm like, she doesn't literally do nothing. Yeah, she spends a good deal of the movie borderline catatonic and bound to a chair and all that, and being inactive, but she doesn't, like, in the end, like, she dies because she tries to do a good deed. Like, she finally decides, hey, I need to get into the game, I need to step up, I need to defend. And because of that, like, when the zombies in the climax siege upon the house, and one of them, or more than one of them, basically gets their hands on Helen, or tries to, Barbara could decide to stay on that chair and decide, you know what, I'm going to stay out of this fight. We continue just benching myself. But no, she gets up and decides, no, I got to go ahead and help. She goes in there and rescues Helen, pulls her away from the zombies. And for doing that, her brother, Johnny, now reanimated, breaches through, grabs her, and pulls her, into a horde of zombies to be consumed. And so, basically, her doing the right thing gets her killed. Now, there may be some viewers who are like, that's sad and all that, but it's like, that was too little too late. But it's like, at least she tried to do something. Maybe not when you wanted her to. Maybe not always when she needed to, but she did do something in the end, and it did cost her her life. And so she literally didn't do anything. And it's like she literally did something to help, to do something. But I think one reason why people don't like Barbara, yeah, she does cry quite a bit and stuff like that, and some people are annoyed by that. I don't think you should be. I mean, it's a really traumatic, messed up situation. She spends a lot of movie just quiet. But I think the reason why a good number of people don't like Barbara is because maybe she reminds them of how they possibly could be in that situation. Like, as much as they think they would be Ben in that situation, they most likely would be Barbara in that situation. Just inert, inactive, petrified, not doing much, scared out of their minds, all that, sobbing. And, some people don't like a mirror. I think that's some of where that comes from. And, they see her as weak and stuff like that. And, some people have this really hostile reaction to weakness, but we go all define what weakness is, this and that. But again, she's in an incredibly traumatic situation, horrific situation, abnormally fucked up situation. And I just think Barbara deserves a little bit more love. I can understand if she's not anybody's favorite character, but Barbara deserves more grace. And Judith O'Dea just played her exceptionally well, and she was fantastic in the film, and she should have been in a lot more work than this film. Other memorable people, I mean, the whole cast is memorable. Everyone's great in this film. Carl Hardman, just one of the best on-screen antagonists, Mr. Cooper. I think it's Harry Cooper. Just amazing. Just again, there's another guy who a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of people like Cooper, but Cooper, there would definitely be a Cooper at some point in somebody's group. The know-it-all type of guy, wants to try to boss everybody around and this and that, and think he's doing the right thing, think everybody's stupid except him. There would be somebody, maybe not Cooper in every group, but Coopers definitely do exist. He played it really realistically well. Carl Hardman. There's another man who should have gotten a lot more work. I mean, everybody. And you got Marilyn Eastman as his wife, Helen. I think she's great. I love her character. I love how she stands up to Cooper. I love how she doesn't put up with his shit. She's just amazing in the role. And, you got everybody else as well. I'm not sure if I remember everybody's name right now, but I think Judith Ridley, I think that's her name, played Judy. She was good. I liked her a lot. In the role for the little bit she's not in it hold too much, but I think she's good in the role, memorable. You also got Tom, played by I think Keith Wayne. I really like this character too. He's probably the everyman, every person, just thrust in this situation. He and Judy, they're both basically probably the most relatable characters in the film. They're just everyday people who are just thrust in this situation. They may not be exceptional in some way, in terms of personality traits or skills or whatever, but they're just trying to do their best to get out of a really messed up situation. And you also have Kyra Shawn, who has very limited screen time as Karen, but she's also great as well, and also plays one of cinemas or just zombie domes just most memorable members of the Living Dead. She just plays a fantastic zombie. She's great in the movie as well. Everyone in the movie, also Striner, Bill Heinzman. I wish I could remember the name of the actor. I think it's George. I forgot his last name, who delivers that great line. They're dead. They're all messed up. He's awesome. Also, Billy Cardell, as the news reporter, he's fantastic. Like everybody in the movie, the cast is, is amazing. The cast is amazing. The cinematography is a marvel. It's one of the best looking movies I've ever seen. Night of the Living Dead. Love the look of that film, the way I was edited. The music, even though the music is not original music, it's library music from beginning to end, but it's just one of the most just impressive like scores ever, or at least pieces of music set to a film. Night of the Living Dead. It is a true testament of what we can create on our own, what we can create with just ourselves, that you don't need to have all the money. You don't need to be well connected. You don't need to have this vast, endless amount of resources to create something that will endure, to create something that will move others and inspire others. Like, we're often told that if you want to do great things, you have to have all this great stuff and all these great opportunities. And yeah, those things definitely can help you make great things, but like, you have to ultimately have faith in yourself, have faith in those around you, and like, if the opportunity's not around, do your best as you can to create those opportunities. Like, if nobody's making the stories you want to see, no one's making the world you want to live in, do it yourself to the best of your ability. And yeah, there may very well be things that stand in your way. Some people have more opportunity than others to do things, but you have power. Everyone has power to create really wonderful things that will last, things that will matter. That this film, that these 10 guys in Pittsburgh decided to go ahead and make on their own and put out there into the world, changed the world. And you can change the world too.